So for those who don't know, I actually found Falcon when I was 18 years old. I was self-taught for around 18 months before I even came across Falcon. I was young, I was naive, I could have been led astray by absolutely anybody. And due to destiny, weirdly, I came across Falcon. Stuck there ever since, and I've never switched system, and I'm glad I've not, because the thing is, when you switch system and you switch the method by which you trade, you have to restart all over again. People think you're starting a new system and you've got experience in these kind of things, but it's like learning 20% of a language, let's say Chinese, and then you go on to learn Russian. So you know a lot about different languages, but you can't speak fluently in one language, and there's a problem with that, because you become a jack of all trades and a master of none, and in the markets that doesn't work. You have to become a master in one language, you have to read the markets one way and master that language. Now imagine you've got a negotiation with somebody, and imagine that, let's say English for example, it's a language that most people speak. In fact, you've been speaking it your entire life, but many people still fail to communicate effectively. If you're in a negotiation and you're somebody who your first language was English, but now you've learned all these different languages. Imagine you go to China for example and you want to speak Chinese, but you only know 20% of it. You could only get so far, but if you've mastered Chinese, you can negotiate your way through to so many different deals. You can get a lot of things done, and you can achieve a lot of things if you've mastered one language, is what I'm trying to say in this analogy here. Same with English. I mean, English is a language that we all speak. How broad is your vocabulary? How well articulated are you? These kind of things. There's so many English words that people aren't even aware of. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's not that I'm learning more languages, I'm just going deeper into one language, and it's the same in the market. If you're learning a method of trading, instead of learning all these different things and all these new principles, new techniques, new methods, which everyone's always got one every single year, when in essence all they are just rebranded versions of concepts of price action that have always existed. When you go deeper into one system as opposed to broadening your system, you'll find a much different shift in your performance. That's a very important thing to know. I've traded this one system for almost 6 years now. What I'm learning about it now, the deeper that I'm going into it, my understanding is getting clearer and clearer 6 years in. You know, people have swapped systems every 2 years or so. Pretty much done in terms of trading related stuff. I've obviously got my watch list building tonight, so I usually start my watch list on the Friday, as you guys know. For now, I'm going to head over to the gun range. I didn't actually know they were legal in the UK. I thought they were banned for some reason, but apparently gun range is illegal, so I'm going to go give it a try, see what it is. It's supposed to be semi-automatic AR-15 rifles. They sound good, and I'm hoping they're actually real bullets and not air pellets. So I'm going to go over there, get some food after, come back, and then I'm going to start my watch list for the week ahead. So I've been seeing floating about a lot of these clips around, ICT is not going to make you successful, learn this model, learn that model, market maker model, and all this kind of stuff, right? And it really baffles me, because if ICT's got so many different models to learn, obviously you're going to have to take your time to not only learn, but to test and to trade, to actually get an idea if they work on. I mean, one strategy alone, or one model of system to look at the markets from, you should be trading that for a minimum of, I reckon, between 8 and 12 months, and that's after learning it. So we're talking about a year and a half here, to actually really understand whether that system's effective or not. You can't just learn it for a few months and make a judgment that quick. What strikes me is interesting is that technically, if you calculate it, if you're at least dedicating 1 year to one model, you should be learning ICT for like years before you even find the model that works for you and these kind of things. Another ironic thing is you'll spend all this time deep diving into all this information when in essence you're doing all of that for a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3 in the end, just to get out, because you think that if you hold on to a trade for longer, that it's greater risk exposure. So why are you going to waste all that time, all that opportunity in those 2-3 years where you could have just stuck by one system, a structured form of education? Because ICT is unstructured, right? What I know from ICT is you have to go on YouTube, you have to find your way through it, and it's very cryptic in the way that it works. Why would you want to do that when you can literally just save the time, instead of being stingy and not paying for something just because it's free? Save the time, pay the money, and learn from a place where you have structured education, where things are already set out in a certain order for you, and then you can adapt that system how you like. That's what I've done. I mean, I've traded this method for 6 years. You know, I don't trade it in the exact way it was taught to me. I've adapted a few things here and there. I've not added anything new in. I've just found my strengths within it. Like, for example, I only trade continuations. I don't touch reversal structures. You know, that wasn't taught from the beginning. Mark never said only trade continuations. So it just doesn't make sense to me. You know, it all looks great, you know, and you look very smart on the charts. I'll give all of you guys that, you know, all these different words and terms that you use. I'm not trying to make fun of you, right? People think I'm trying to make fun of you by saying this. I'm just trying to humorize it so you can understand it better. I could be very mature about it and speak about it in a mature way. I have to humorize it so people understand it better. So don't mistake that from me mocking you. I'm just simply humorizing it just so you can understand it better. I have to dumb it down for people because sometimes people can't understand complicated words. Anyway. So another thing, if I was to give you an example and say, tomorrow you wake up, I'll give you $50 million. I'll give you $50 million, but that's going to shave off 20 years off your life. You wouldn't accept that. Nobody in the right mind would. Would you accept it? No. You wouldn't accept it. What if I was to say, right, I'll give you $50 million, but I'll shave 10 years off your life? Some of you still will think, I don't want to accept that. Key lesson there is time is more valuable than money. Time is a form of money, of course, but time is way more valuable than money. That's proof to you. If you've answered yes to that, I don't want that money, I'd rather have those 20 years back, Guarantee if you ask somebody who's 90 years old, if they could be 70 again, they would take it over anything. They would sell everything they've got just to be. In fact, all of you watching this right now would sell everything you own when you're 45, 50 years old, whatever age you are. You'd sell everything you own just to be the age you are right now, in the health and in the condition that you are right now. So time is very valuable. So you're telling me 2-3 years you're gonna spend just because you don't want to pay money. In fact, that costs you more. It costs you time. Time is way more valuable than money. So it's cost you something that's much more precious of an asset. So it's something to think about. So you gotta wait for this time to finish, and then you can drink.
Alright, so me and Nibby were talking before about some of the key things that we see people doing as a mistake within the industry. One of the things that we brought to our attention was, if you look at most people within the industry, especially the newbie traders, they come in and they think, I just want to get funding, right? They want to get funding, they want to get 400k, they want to get a 20 grand payout. That's the mentality of people. Whereas when we came into the space, it was very different, wasn't it? You know, it's 6-7 years ago now. The mentality was grow your own personal capital or investor capital. That was the two options. Whereas funding right now has just clouded people's judgment to think that's the only option. Like if funding disappeared tomorrow, most people, let's just go straight to the point, they will be screwed. They'd be absolutely screwed. But then it brought us back to the focus. The focus for me, and I know it's the same for you, is always been mastery. It's not a case of I want funding just for payouts, because that's pretty much a gamblish mentality. The focus for me is how can I improve 0.1% better every so often? It's not going to be every single day, because you're not going to get breakthroughs every single day. That's trading 101, but it's focused on mastery. It's not focused on how can I get this payout. It's a very different mentality there. I'm sure you'd agree.
And you don't expand your horizons so wide that you're learning 50, 60, 70 different principles at once, which is not necessarily effective. Zaki, yeah. Now go for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, do I know you? I'm not sure.
Probably
You
do.
do? Trader. No way, I do. Sorry, you record. I'm so sorry.
No, you can join in, mate, don't worry.
Pleasure, man. Absolutely. Oh my god. How did you do? What's your name?
Ibby,
Cheers, man.
nice to meet you. What's your name? Wicked, yeah.
Traders. Oh my gosh. There's no way.
No worries,
Nice to meet you. Sorry about that.
You too, man. How does it feel being a celebrity?
I'm not a celebrity.
You got to look to build on one method over a period of time. If I sat and tried to become bilingual or multilingual and I learn all these languages, I'll become a jack of all trades and a master of none, and I can't refine on that. I can't get to a point of mastery. It's very difficult. If you look at all the greats, like you were saying before, like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, their style of basketball, their game when they're on the court was completely unique to themselves. Mike Tyson, boxers, they would box and they would perform in a certain way because they've mastered one technique of boxing, basketball, sports, whatever it might be. So mastery is a key point. So when you want to master something and you want to get to a point of heavy, deep refinement, you don't refine these things every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. It might be every few months that you hit a point where you're like, right, there's this small little adjustment that I've seen in my trading that I can make that will then make 10, 15, 20 things ahead of time a lot easier. We were talking about drawdown recovery before, right? You mentioned you got a key interesting take on drawdown recovery.
The whole trading space, if you think about it, I'm sure you'd agree, it's just black and white. People want a black and white checklist. They want to follow a strategy, have no discretion, and want to succeed. But if that was the case, everyone would be successful. It's the same in drawdown. People think about it in the same way where, let's say they hit 5% drawdown, they're hoping for that next winning trade to then get them out of drawdown. But the thing is, to be in the game, we've been in the game for a long time now, 6-7 years, you need systems in place to recover, because the truth is you can have ebbs and flows. You can have winning periods, you're also going to have losing periods. Now that can be for a number of reasons, which is another rabbit hole in itself. It could be probability and it could be tilt. Say for example, you get to minus 5% drawdown, which every trader has, myself included many times. You need a system in place to then recover. So I read a book, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, called With Winning in Mind, and in that he talks about an analogy with golf of a recovery strategy. Now this recovery strategy can also be applied to trading, which is what I figured out. So if you get minus 5% in drawdown, why not actually put a system in place? So for example, halve the risk, drop your risk from 1% trade to then 0.5. You can also put some systems in place such as journaling, getting to the root cause of why you're actually in that drawdown, Is it probability? Is it tilt? Are you going on a bit of a tilt cycle? Because that's the truth in itself. And then it could be something simple as like getting away from the charts initially, going to train, going to walk. I've got all these systems in place, and then come back, get to the root cause, halve the risk, and then it's just an accumulation effect of getting yourself or putting yourself in the best situation to get out of drawdown. And you said it before as well. Once you're actually below break even, then it's a good standpoint to actually focus on higher quality trades, avoiding the lower quality trades, focus on a high criteria of low risk trades to put yourself in the best chance of getting out of that cycle as well.
Even with risk management, right? So risk management is the key point here. People think it's just financial. Like you said, it's not just financial. If, as an example, I've got a lot going on in my life, you're getting into arguments with your partner all the time, or you're doing it could be anything, right? Your head's not in the right space, you're out of routine, you're out of flow. You could know your system like the back of your hand. You could have tested it till your eyes have bled, but those things 100% are going to affect you. And then the risk on your portfolio is going to increase because you're not trading from the same mindset anymore at all. These things are all intercorrelated. I'm not eating the right kinds of foods. There's been literally studies to show how your gut-mind connection works. I can know my system very well, but I might respond more erratically to a situation. I might lose a position that was totally fine to take, but I'm very agitated now. I'm irritated. I've got this, my irritability index is really high, if you want to call it that. And that consistently is going to affect you at one point. A trader's performance, in my opinion, is really truly measured, not just obviously when they're winning, but when they're losing. What's their response like to situations? And do they make a -2 or -3 situation worse and turn it into a -6 when they shouldn't have done that? That 3% extra buffer in terms of losing trades, why were they taken? This argument comes up all the time. Would you get into a plane with a pilot who never went to pilot school? You wouldn't, right? Okay. Would you get into a plane with a pilot who went to pilot school, but he gets panic attacks quite often? I wouldn't get into a plane with that guy either. Skill, mentality, which one first? I think they both work in duality together, right? I would want to get into a plane with a pilot who's well-rounded, guy's mentally composed, and he knows how to fly a bloody plane in the first place, right? I'm a pilot, as an example. I'm looking to fly this plane. I know I'm not going to jump on that plane if I'm prone to panic attacks. You wouldn't go into the markets, or you shouldn't go into the markets knowing that you're in an anxious state, you're in a panicky state, you're agitated, you're not in the right state. So yeah, risk management, I think, is definitely holistic. You have to look at it from all areas. Everything connects, and yeah.
Yeah, and like Ibby rightly said, it all comes into the effect. People just want to be technically savvy and just want to be chart warriors, which is a term that people throw around all the time. But the thing is, their diet could be shit and their health could be shocking, and they don't pay attention to how they react in certain situations, like you said, and relationships and all this kind of stuff. People don't really think about this because people have that narrow-minded mentality of it's just the charts and me, that's it. It's not the case. The chemicals in your food, the chemical in your water supply, all these things. I mean, for me, it's something I've gone into because, like we said, it's about mastery. I'm looking for that 0.1% edge that can put an edge on you over other traders that can separate you and actually be better in certain situations. For example, like you said, with chemicals in food or tap water or whatever it may be, it all buys in. It's all a holistic approach, and it's something you should really pay attention to.
We're not saying that if you drink tap water, you're going to be a failure, right? Correlation and causation are different. What we're trying to get across here too is that obviously if you don't know your technique, these things, they're just going to be added bonuses that are going to affect you regardless. We're speaking to those of you who already know your system to a point where you can be profitable, which is not difficult. Like I was thinking in a clip recently, we're not learning rocket science. Trading's difficult, don't get me wrong, it's very difficult, but it's more mentally demanding than intellectually demanding. You could be somebody who, like, you probably failed school. I dropped out of college. I wasn't stupid, I just didn't like it. But I know people who, they're not academically smart, but they're really good at trading. It proves you don't have to have a high IQ to trade. You have to have a high EQ though, 100%. Because every great trader has this amazing emotional intelligence that academic people don't have, because that's a different form of bracket of intelligence. So what we're trying to get across is learning a strategy is not difficult. Sticking by one, developing on it, mastering on it, that's not difficult. What is truly difficult is when you get to that stage, these finer details, they're a lot more difficult to develop and build on because you get led astray. You're listening to 15 or 20 different voices at one given point. Whoever you're learning off, right, stick to learning off them. Like, you've got your own students, they should be listening to you. Balkan students, we say just learn off us. We're not trying to be dictators, we're trying to help you out. Imagine if Mike Tyson had 5 different trainers. These guys stuck with one trainer and listened to what they said and mastered it.